So recently I made a video about Halle Bailey, and I said in the video that she probably has borderline personality disorder because I have borderline personality disorder, and when I read the text messages, I really saw myself in her. But at the same time, borderline personality disorder has 4 types. So mine is the quiet type. We internalize our symptoms. So for example, if I'm really angry, I'm not gonna lash out to people. I'm going to hurt myself instead of hurting people. Basically, that's what it means. I think Halle Bailey has the impulsive borderline type, and maybe also the petulant borderline. She probably has a combination of both. So with the impulsive borderline, you have traits of histrionic and antisocial personalities, which is in the same cluster as borderline personality disorder, which is cluster B. They are charismatic, energetic, and thrill-seeking. They engage in reckless behaviors like substance abuse or like unsafe sex, or even like self-harm behaviors. They struggle with controlling impulses and maintaining stable relationships. And they can be prone to manipulative behavior and dramatic emotional displays. So that's the type of borderline that I think Halle has. But there's also the petulant borderline, which have traits of negativistics, so passive-aggressive traits, and obsessive personality disorder traits. So she feels unworthy, distrustful, and easily disappointed or angry. They frequently experiences mood swings, resentment, and difficulty expressing needs. So they have a fear of abandonment mixed with anger. And they can be explosive, stubborn, and hypersensitive to rejection. I think Halle has those 2 types of borderline personality disorder. So borderline personality disorder is a cluster B personality disorder. There are 3 clusters of personality disorders, and the cluster B is the dramatic, like very emotional or emotionless type. So BPD is a complex mental health condition marked by intense emotional sensitivity, unstable relationship, a shaky sense of self, and impulsive behavior. That's just like the general description, but it's a very complex disorder. So the reason why I'm talking about this is because most people right now are focusing on the drama of it, and they're calling Halle crazy. And I can say that some of her behaviors can seem that way, make her look a certain way, which is like crazy, but it's a deeper issue that I would like people to understand better. Instead of judging her and criticizing her behaviors, I think people can try to have like more empathy towards her and understand where she's coming from, because in the text messages, what I noticed is that Halle is often in a crisis mode, and a crisis mode when you have BPD is very, very, very intense. It's like you're crashing out, but like 1,000 times. Like it feels like the end of the world. And what I noticed is that DDG in his messages seem to ignore her, invalidate her emotions, which triggers the borderline to explode even more. So to be even more in a crisis mode. I said in my previous video that they are the typical NPD and BPD relationship type, which means that the BPD person, which is Halle, is trying to cling onto DDG. She's very like desperate for his attention. She's like really seeking his attention by texting often, like saying some hurtful things. She's threatening to kill herself, which is like can be seen as attention seeking, but it means that she's actually like very really suffering. Also so I noticed that DDG doesn't really take her seriously, but at the same time I can understand, because if she's been doing that a lot, it can become very draining at the end. So I understand DDG, like his answers, so it's really a lot and it's very complex. So I just want to like shed some light on the disorder in general, because I like to raise awareness on the disorder and how it can impact people, because a lot of celebrities and people in the public light do have this disorder or like other personality disorders, and I feel like it's not talked about enough. And by talking about it and raising awareness on it. By raising awareness on the disorder and what it can look like, I feel like more people can get a diagnosis or like get some help, because it's a disorder that is very painful to live with, and a lot of people with borderline personality disorder will try to end their lives, successfully or not. So I feel like it's apparently one of the most painful mental disorder to have. So I really think it's important to shed some light and to educate people on the disorder, because there's a lot of stigma and misunderstanding of the disorder by regular people, but also by the medical field. So excuse my voice, I think I have like a cold coming. I hope Hallie can have the courage to come out and say that she has this disorder, because I feel like that could help a lot of people that are already looking up to her. She's not the typical borderline. She is really like put together, and like you could like never guess that she has borderline personality disorder. A bit like me also, like people will never guess that I have borderline personality disorder. It's only like the people who are closest to you that can see some signs. For example, your family members or your romantic relationships, which can be very triggering for someone who has a borderline personality disorder. So borderline personality disorder can develop from a few things. People are not medical professionals, don't fully know the reason why people have borderline personality disorder, and to be honest, I think it's often a personality disorder that is misdiagnosed. For example, people will diagnose you with bipolar instead of BPD, or like some people have autism but they give them the borderline personality disorder diagnosis. So it's a very like tricky mental disorder to diagnose. It can come from childhood trauma, like for example physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, unstable relationships. For me, I think that's the biggest reason why people develop borderline personality disorder or any personality disorder. It comes from trauma, and we know that Hallie has gone through some trauma in her childhood, because her dad used to be abusive towards her mom, probably also abused her and her sisters. Like it's not confirmed, but that's what I can imagine. Or even just witnessing abuse done to someone you love can trigger you to develop a personality disorder, because I think personality disorders are like a coping mechanism to survive trauma. People develop borderline personality disorder due to a mix of genetics, environmental, and neurological factors. You can also develop BPD because you have a sensitive temperament from birth that can make someone more reactive, like to stress and or rejection. But you can also develop BPD because of invalidating environments where your feelings were dismissed or punished. So it teaches a person to doubt their own emotions and identity. It can also be a brain difference, especially areas like the amygdala, which is responsible for the emotion parts of the human brain, and the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for the impulse control. So it makes emotional regulation harder. BPD is basically like an emotional survival coping mechanism of someone who has never felt safe being themselves, which is really sad. So in the DSM-5, you have to have at least 5 symptoms out of the 9 symptoms to qualify for the diagnosis. So I will talk about the BPD symptoms that I see in Hallie. So basically, we can see that she has the fear of abandonment. Basically, that's like the biggest symptoms that most borderlines have, which is like a fear of abandonment. We are afraid of being rejected. We panic sometimes at the idea of someone leaving us, even if it's just by text. Like we try to avoid abandonment by clinging, begging, ghosting first, or starting fights to test if someone will stay. So we can see that in the text messages of Hallie, that she's in distress. She often says, "I'm begging you for help. I'm begging you to hear me." The next symptoms is unstable and intense relationships. So we can see that their relationship was really passionate and also very toxic, because people with borderline personality disorder will often idealize their partners. So they will think that, "Oh, I just found my soulmate. You're the best person ever." And then when someone does something that you don't like, you will think they're the worst person, like they're so evil and stuff like that. So for us, people are either everything or nothing. We idealize people and it quickly flips into devaluation. So the highs are very euphoric and the lows are very depressing. So we can see that in her text messages. She's saying, for example, "I hate you. You are the worst person that I've ever met. You are the most horrible person that I've ever met. I want to die because of you. I will die because of you. Before we saw the text messages, sometimes she was saying that DDG is the best dad ever, or that she's happy in her relationship and stuff like that. But then we see that behind closed doors, she was saying those very hurtful things to him as well. So yeah, we often like put people on a pedestal and then devalue them, like think they are trash just because they don't react the way we want them to react, or they don't do something that we want them to do. The third symptom is unstable self-image or identity. So our sense of self is shaky. We might change our goals, style, opinions, or values often. We often mirror other people or create personas to feel accepted. That's a symptom we can't really like verify with Halle because we don't know how she really feels about herself, but we just know that she has anxiety. That's a symptom that I can't really verify by the text messages. The fourth symptom is impulsive behaviors. So acting without thinking when emotions are high, like overspending, binge eating, substance abuse, or risky sex. It's usually to escape emotional pain, even if it's just for a moment. We see that she has impulsive behaviors when she takes his gun to go outside, and that could be like a moment where she dissociated from herself and she wanted to get the gun and maybe like harm herself. And when she texted, "I have a knife." The fifth symptom is self-harming or suicidal behavior. This includes cutting, burning, hitting, or suicidal threats attempts, often during emotional crisis. It's not always a wish to die, more often a cry for relief or expression of inner chaos. So we see that often in her text messages. She's often saying, "I hate this life." I know that I'm actively suicidal and struggling. She did admit that. "Just leave me to die. I can't be here anymore. I want to die. I never want to be here again. I hate this life." So she does show signs of being suicidal. And when she texted, "I have a knife," that she wanted to hurt herself. Like, people who have borderline often cut themselves as a way to release the emotional pain into physical pain. The next symptom is extreme emotional swings. So basically like mood swings. So our mood changes happen fast and are intense. So sadness, anger, shame, euphoria, all within hours. Emotions feel like they control you, not the other way around. Emotions feel 10 times more intense than for the regular person. Sometimes it's so intense that we lose control of reality or like we dissociate. Then we have chronic feelings of emptiness. So we feel numb, hollow, or like we're not really real. People often try to fill the void with substances, people, or chaos. I can't really confirm that she has this symptom, but from what I've seen from her text messages, she does try to fill the void with her relationships. So I can't really confirm that she has feelings of emptiness, but I can see that she triggers chaos in her relationships, maybe to feel something, because when you feel chronically empty, you often do things just to feel like you're really alive and that you do have feelings and stuff like that. So when she crashes out by text messages, I think that's a way for her to like create some chaos to feel something in the relationship. And we have intense anger, so we call it BPD rage. So we might snap over the small things, hold grudges, or struggle to control rage. It's often tied to feeling misunderstood or rejected. So we can see that in her text messages, that when DDG, for example, put his phone on airplane mode, she started crashing out like real bad because it triggered her fear of abandonment. It's obvious from the way she texts, because she's writing in all caps, and also because she has a lot of typo errors. It's obvious that she's experiencing like a very high emotional moment, which is like the BPD rage. For me, I can describe it like I see all red and then boom, I just explode. Actually, she even said it herself that she's a very fiery person because of her, she's an Aries and stuff, so she's very like passionate. And DDG said that she did fight one of the girls he was hanging out with, like, you know, like we see that she has explosive anger and she is sometimes aggressive. Like we have a video of her like cussing everybody out and stuff like that. So the last symptom from the DSM-5 is dissociation or paranoia under stress. So feeling detached from reality, your body, or like you're watching yourself. Might also become suspicious of others' intentions. When stressed, paranoia kicks in. Yeah, that's a big one. When she said, you hate me and your family also hates me, everybody hates me, that's a symptom of, that could be like paranoia, because sometimes we think that people have malicious intentions towards us, and that's valid, because if we've been like abused in our childhood, the people who were supposed to care for us and love us unconditionally didn't do that. So it's normal that we fear, we think people are against us or people are going to hurt us, because that's what we've been through with like the people who were supposed to love us the most. So that's why in romantic relationships, it's very triggering for someone with BPD, because it's like mimicking the relationship from your childhood, you know. Also suspicious that he cheated on her in Mexico with Lala, and other like suspicions like that, which is kind of valid, because we know that DDG pretty likes attention from women. Also, from what I see from her text messages, is that she really blames DDG a lot, which can be like true for some stuff, you know. She's blaming others for her problems, which means that she has that victim mentality that a lot of people with BPD have, and she thinks that everybody hates her. She's also like overly dramatic, like when she says, "Happy that these are the last texts you will ever get from me. Don't come to my funeral," or anything, you know, like things like that. She's very, very dramatic. That's why I think she's likely to be the type 2 borderline, so the impulsive type, because she's very manipulative. Not every borderline is the same. Also, we clearly see that she has low self-esteem when she says, "You've shown time and time again that you just don't care, and that's okay. You don't want to be with me, and that's okay. You like that I'm insecure. You never wanted someone like me." And that's also why we do the things we do, because we have low self-worth. Even though like Halle is very successful and stuff, we can see that she still struggles with low self-worth. And also people were saying that she was crashing out because of postpartum depression. I can see that her text messages were dating from 2022, like because they started their relationship in January 2022, and she was crashing out like I don't know when, but still in the same year. So that means that's just like how she is. Like with borderline personality disorder, that's just how we are. We can go into remission and we can lessen the symptoms and like learn how to cope with them better, but it's something that stays with you like for the rest of your life, because you are just like that. That's just how your personality was formed from childhood. I will talk about that in another video, but we see her with her sister all the time, and they make it appear that they have a very, very, very close relationship with each other. But we see that in the text messages, she was saying that she has no one except him, that she's alone, she doesn't have nobody and stuff. So I really wonder like why she didn't text her sister, like why she felt like she was alone and that DDG was the only one that could help her. That's something I'm going to dive deeper into in a next video, but for me I found that very strange, but also not that strange, because often we have like a favorite person, and that can like only be one person, you know. So when we have our favorite person, that's the person we rely on for emotional support and everything else. So this mental disorder is very, very hard to live with. It's a very serious illness. So that's why my heart goes out to Halle, because if she really struggles with this disorder, I know that it's not easy to live with, and I know that it's not something maybe she wants to talk about in public, because like I said, there's a lot of judgment and people don't really understand the behavior. They just call people crazy. That just doesn't help to reduce the stigma around borderline personality disorder. We need more representation of people with borderline personality disorder, whether it's male or female. We need to not normalize, but it is much more common than people think. Like this disorder is more common than people think, and a lot of people have personality disorders and they don't even know it, you know. Especially in the Black community, it's still something that is taboo, and that's why there's a lot of violence. And like, because I really think it could save lives if people were more open about their mental health issues, especially people who look like they don't suffer from a mental illness, because mental illness doesn't have a face, really. Like anyone can be suffering from a mental illness and you will never know. So it's very important that people educate themselves more on this.